Yes. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Yes,
Yeah. So let's start with the Hafiz's saying and then we'll start the reading.
definitely.
Jai Baba.
Uh, Jai Baba. Three of Meher Baba's favorite couplets of Hafiz, a mystical Persian poet. Being a fortunate slave, carry
Befitting.
out, oh sorry, befitting sorry, I'll start again. Befitting a fortunate slave, carry out every command of the master without any question of why and what. About what you hear from the master, never say it is wrong because, my dear, the fault lies in your own incapacity to understand him. I am slave of the master who has released me from ignorance. Whatever my master does is of the highest benefit to all concerned. Hafiz, Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
So,
and apologies, Baba, for starting on a wrong. Anyway,
no. That's not the thing. I'm sorry I corrected you, but then getting it
no,
right
that's
is also important. So
no, no,
that's
making it
always
right is
fine.
correct.
Thank you
Absolutely,
so much.
no, no, I got like driven by the enthusiasm. Anyway,
Yeah. No problem. So, last week, oh yeah, last week I had a lot of fun. So let me tell you about that. So I ran the 10K the second time here, and this time I had Baba company. I had Roosbay join me. So
wow,
Roosbay and me, of course, he didn't do the whole run, but then we did the 10K. I did my best time, so I enjoyed myself last Sunday in the morning. But I was on the phone listening to your reading till halfway. And then when I started the serious run, I just switched off and I got off the call. So, how was the reading last week? And any insights and thoughts before we start? We are starting from the process of sublimation here,
uh,
this point.
uh, yeah, the reading was good, and there were a couple of points as well, and yeah, every time we read something new, some new messages and context, and learnings come which we can apply to our life.
Anything that you applied or anything that you meditated upon in the last week that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I just want to talk about that. There's a chapter on yoga and meditation, and so now, um, 5 days or 3 days a week, I am attending a yoga class. So I think
Okay.
that is one way of at least my that helps me in my path towards spirituality. That's one thing, and of course on sanskaras, you know we have to be very very cognizant and careful that we try not to create uh, unwanted sanskaras. This is what I took away. I mean, there's much more, but this is simply what I took away.
Okay. Great.
Ashish can add, I think.
Ashish,
Yeah, Jai Baba. So,
Jai Baba.
yeah. So you're asking like, what's the learning, right? Last week,
Yes.
what we follow, or something like that.
Yes, something like that.
Uh,
Got you.
yeah, means one of the statement which I read last Sunday is like, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, and Aham Brahmasmi, right? So
Hmm.
that uh, that content from the same book, which impacted, right, which impacted. So every time something, when you are like, in last week when I was like, and many people, right, we interact with many people and all, many things we deal. So if those things, whenever I was just remembering those words, then a little bit of truthness, I understood, oh, this is not the truth, right? This is, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, and Aham
Wow.
Brahmasmi. Yeah, so
Wow.
yeah, That's all.
Wow, that's good. So I think that's a big step. So don't give that up next week, or try to sustain. No, no, no. I try to sustain that because क्या होता है, the we get excited, and when we get a new learning, we are able to put it in practice for a short time, right? But then mundane, our mind gets into the mundane again, and then we lose sight of that, right? So don't lose sight of that. You're on to something that's good because you're able to put that recognition of the true nature. See, all about discourses is only two words. Discourses is only discovery of true values of everything. Basically, you understand the true value of everything around you, and that's all discourse is about. You have cracked the core of the true values, okay? And if you're able to stay there, if you're able to continuously live in that moment of discovery and sustain and expand that, you're onto something. So I'm happy for you. Good
And
disclosure.
last week also I raised one point, and Mahu and everyone they given very good description on that one. I mentioned like we deal with so many people, right? Means even though I means we try to we know like we're Baba lovers, we have to follow the Baba's instruction, but we are in the environment where everyone is running, right? Everyone is running to achieve something which is nothing, right? Which is nothing, and you are in that environment continuously. Means I'm suppose I'm starting my work in the morning 6 o'clock. Means with the I'm interacting with suppose every day suppose 50 60 people, right? In those 10 hours there is too much competitive environment, so much of business and all those stuffs you're talking continuously. So when you are working on your professional on your profession, when you work for such a long time, and to keep it in the mind what Baba says, that's very important. Sometimes it's become very difficult, right, in that competitive world. So then last week Mahu and everyone said, yeah, that means we need to keep on remembering the Baba's name every time, surrender. So those stuffs we discussed last week, and that was a good discussion.
Very good. Thanks for
Mhm.
sharing. Okay, so we stopped on page 51, the end of the first paragraph. That's where we have stopped. The name of the paragraph was Dispersion and Exhaustion of Sanskaras. We continue with the process of sublimation sustained by unfailing interest. So let's continue there. Let me read for a bit. Tar Meher Baba ki jai. Process of sublimation sustained by unfailing interest. The method of sublimation is the most natural and effective method of breaking through the grooves of old sanskaras and has the special advantage of having an unfailing interest for the aspirant at all stages. The method of mere negation without any substitution is sometimes likely to be boring and may seem to lead to vacuity. But the method of sublimation consists in replacing lower values with higher ones and is therefore full of absorbing interest at every stage, bringing an ever increasing sense of fulfillment. Mental energy can be sublimated into spiritual channels through meditation, selfless service for humanity, and devotion. Okay, first science question: what is sublimation? Anyone? Sublimation is change of form from solid to gas directly without going to the intermediate form of liquid, right? So, a sublime, a substance is said to be sublime if it's able to do that. So the context why that word is used here is very beautiful. It's basically the definition of sublimation is in this line. The method of sublimation consists in replacing lower values with higher ones and is therefore full of absorbing interest at every stage, bringing an ever increasing sense of fulfillment. So you can actually replace lower lower desires with through higher values, and hence you sublime that desire. You replace that desire with a higher one. And the three mental energy can be sublimated into spiritual channels through meditation, selfless service for humanity, and devotion. So let's see each one of them in detail. By the way, sublimation, the best example for a sublime substance is camphor, right? So I'm sure it's not without reason that camphor is chosen as a symbology in Hinduism, in being offered, right? Of course, the purest camphor has that property. Today, if you actually burn camphor that you buy in a shop, you see a liquid forming at the bottom that finally goes away, but that's just adulteration. 100% pure camphor actually moves from solid to gas straight, right? So I think there must be some logic for using camphor apart from its beautiful, gentle fragrance and the fire it brings instantly. Those are other properties that are unique to that, right? It burns instantly, and it also has this subtle, uh, beautiful fragrance. Okay, meditation. Uh, uh, its nature and purpose. Meditation is deep and constant concentration upon an ideal object. In such concentration upon an ideal object, the person is conscious only of the object of meditation, completely forgetting the mind as well as the body. Thus, no new sanskaras are formed, and old ones are dispersed and exhausted through the mental activity of dwelling on the object of concentration. Finally, when the sanskaras completely disappear, the soul, as individualized, is dissolved in the intensity of concentration and is merged in the ideal object. I read that last line again. Finally, when the sanskaras completely disappear, the soul, as individualized, is dissolved in the intensity of concentration and is merged in the ideal object. So, what do you think of meditation? The definition of meditation. Ashok, you're trying yoga. What do you think about meditation?
Yeah, meditation is one of the very good paths of uh, just doing Nam Smaran and remembrance of Meher Baba. I think that's it. And then, as Kama has said earlier, we just concentrate on our breath, breath in Ba and breath out Ba, Ba Ba. That's all. Deep concentration, and the ideal object, of course, is Baba.
Sure.
I hope I'm not putting it too simple, but that's what it is for me.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
Hello?
you're not off the mark with what you said. Any other thoughts from the others?
One more thing, they mentioned it as a some position also, right? Concentration by sitting maybe on the one place and just being idle for some time and taking the
Yes,
name.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. Yes, I think it's described more clearly. We will just go through that briefly in this chapter. There is a chapter on the multiple chapters on meditation later. We'll get to that. Let me continue. Forms of meditation. There are many forms of meditation according to the aptitude of different persons. The imaginative genius of persons who have to labor hard is often dried up due to overwork. I'll read that line again slowly. The imaginative genius of persons who have to labor hard is often dried up due to overwork. For such persons, the form of meditation most suitable consists in disconnecting oneself from one's thoughts and then looking upon these thoughts and the body objectively. After the aspirant is successful in regarding his thoughts and his body with complete objectivity, he tries to identify himself with the cosmic being through constructive suggestions such as, I am the infinite, I am in everything, I am in all. So those are the three example suggestions given here. But basically, the form of meditation is based on the aptitude of different persons, and then there are different kinds of meditation. So we'll continue. Those who have vivid and likely imaginations can try intensive concentration on some point, but fixing the mind on some point should be avoided by those who have no liking for it. Ordinarily, the energy of the mind is scattered through its diverse thoughts. Meditation on a point is very salutary for the mind to gather itself and settle down, but it is a mechanical process and therefore lacks creative and blissful experiences. However, in the initial stages, this form of meditation might be used as a preparation for other more successful forms of meditation. There's one more, there's the next type meditation on personal and impersonal aspects of God. The more successful and deeper forms of meditation are preceded by deliberate and constructive thinking about God, the beloved. Meditation on God is spiritually most fruitful. God can become the object of meditation either in his impersonal aspect or in his personal aspect. Meditation on the impersonal aspect of God is suitable only for those who have a special aptitude for it. It consists in focusing all thoughts on the abstract and unmanifest existence of God. On the other hand, meditation on the personal aspect of God consists in centering all thoughts upon the form and attributes of God. After intensive meditation, the mind might want to settle down not on the object of meditation, but on the steadiness of the expansive peace experienced during meditation. Beautiful line. After intensive meditation, the mind might want to settle down not on the object of meditation, but on the steadiness of the expansive peace experienced during meditation. Such moments are the natural result of the fatigue of the faculty of imagination, and they should be effortlessly encouraged. Meditation should be spontaneous and not forced. In the moments of the surging up of divine impulses, imagination should be let loose and allowed to soar. The flight of imagination should be controlled only by the set purpose of becoming one with the infinite. It should not be influenced by the currents of the diverse feelings of lust, greed, or anger. Wow. I'll pause. Any thoughts? Any questions?
Just to add, I think this uh, lust, anger, and greed, the lag, that is what brings us down, is what comes to my mind. So we have to be very watchful, cognizant that we should not be influenced by the diverse feelings of lust, greed, and anger.
Absolutely. So see the mind unfortunately is going to concentrate on everything, right? I mean, if given free rein, the mind will do will indulge itself in anything. So the more we are able to focus and use the mind to expand this peace experience during meditation, that's the best part, right? So if you're able to create that recreate that experience beyond the period of meditation, so you become one with the object of meditation. The object of meditation is Baba, and if you're able to sustain that experience beyond meditation, that is a good outcome. Of course, even the fact that you meditated for 1 hour in a day, or 20 minutes in a day, or 15 minutes a day is an achievement. But the greater achievement is to take that experience that lasted in those 15 minutes and try to spread it and persist that experience for longer and longer during the course of the day. And that's why it's important to practice meditation. It's important to slowly increase the periods of meditation, because a natural outcome of that would be to put it in practice beyond the stop of meditation, right? So I think that'll happen naturally. By the way, all this from someone who never meditates, okay? I don't meditate. So if others in this group are meditating, please tell me more. I've tried multiple types of meditation and I've not really succeeded. So I think I'm a harebrained guy, I think.
I also not able to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Mind
Okay.
mind
So
is always disturbed. It's like it's always thinking about after a couple of minutes, even I will say after a couple of seconds, the mind will get diverted to something else. That happens with me.
yes, my problem too, but I think we have to fix it. We have to see, there are techniques that Baba gives when we in the meditation chapter on how to get over that, but we'll have to make the effort and do it. We are all, we take Baba's statements out of context. He said, "Don't worry on meditation, just love me." So when it's convenient to us, we use only that part. Right. So let's continue. Obstacles in meditation. Success in concentration comes only gradually, and the novice is likely to be disheartened because he does not get satisfactory results in the beginning. There you go. Often, the disappointment that he experiences is in itself a serious obstruction to beginning the meditation of the day and to persist in it. Other obstacles like idleness and ill health also may be difficult to overcome, but they can be gotten over by having fixed and regular hours for meditation and steady practice. During early morning or at sunset, the quiet condition of nature is particularly helpful for meditation, but it may also be undertaken at any other suitable time. Okay. Importance of solitude for meditation. Solitude is one of the essential conditions for attaining success in meditation. In the world of thought, there's a constant intermingling of thought forms and colors. Some mighty ideas tend to strengthen the mind by facilitating integration, whereas some frivolous thoughts are dissipating. The mind is either attracted or repelled by these diverse thoughts in the mental environment. It is advisable to avoid the influence of these variegated thoughts in order to get established in one's own ideal thoughts. For this purpose, solitude has immense possibilities. Solitude means economy of mental energy and increased power of concentration. Having nothing extraneous to attract or repel your mind, you are drawn inward and learn the art of opening yourself to the higher currents which have the potency of giving you strength, bliss, and peaceful expansiveness. One second. Yeah. Selfless service. So this is the second of the third, right? Second of three. So if you remember, there were three. Uh, where is that? Meditation, selfless service for humanity, and devotion. So now we take up selfless service. Selfless service. While meditation on the personal and impersonal aspects of God requires withdrawal of consciousness into the sanctuary of one's own heart, concentration on the universal aspect of God is best achieved through selfless service for humanity. When a person is completely absorbed in the service of humanity, he is completely oblivious of his own body or mind or their functions, as in meditation. And therefore, new sanskaras are not formed. Further, the old sanskaras that bind the mind are shattered and dispersed. Since the individual is now centering his attention and interest not upon his own good, but upon the good of others, the nucleus of the ego is deprived of its nourishing energy. Selfless service is therefore one of the best methods of diverting and sublimating the energy locked up in the binding sanskaras. So there's a subtlety here. So he says, selfless service, where is that? Since the individual is now centering his attention and interest not upon his own good, but upon the good of others, the nucleus of the ego is deprived of its nourishing energy. So the ego does not get any power or energy during selfless service. But beware, selfless service also can contribute to your smallest ego, right? The ego self will get a boost by saying, "Oh, I am doing this. I am doing selfless service. I fed 100 people. I have been doing this for so long." That's a matter of caution. Watch out for that ego. That ego is dangerous, right? Baba goes on, implications of selfless service. Selfless service is accomplished when there is not the slightest thought of reward or result, and when there is complete disregard of one's own comfort or convenience or the possibility of being misunderstood. When you are wholly occupied with the welfare of others, you can hardly think of yourself. You are not concerned with your comfort and convenience or your health and happiness. On the contrary, you're willing to sacrifice everything for their well being. Their comfort is your convenience, their health is your delight, and their happiness is your joy. You find your life in losing it in theirs. You live in their hearts, and your heart becomes their shelter. When there is true union of hearts, you completely identify yourself with the other person. Your act of help or word of comfort supplies to others whatever might be lacking in them. And through their thoughts of gratitude and goodwill, you actually receive more than you give. Beautiful description of what should be done. Freedom and fulfillment through service. Thus, through living for others, your own life finds its amplification and expansion. The person who leads a life of selfless service is therefore hardly conscious of serving. He does not make those whom he serves feel that they are in any way under obligation to him. On the contrary, he himself feels obliged for being given a chance of making them happy. Neither for show nor for name and fame does he serve them. Selfless service is completely achieved only when an individual derives the same happiness in serving others as in being served himself. The ideal of selfless service frees him from the sanskaras of craving for power and possession, of self pity and jealousy, of evil deeds actuated through selfishness. Next one is love. Selfless service and meditation are both spontaneous when they are inspired by love. Love is therefore rightly regarded as being the most important avenue leading to the realization of the highest. In love, the soul is completely absorbed in the beloved, and is therefore detached from the actions of the body or mind. This puts an end to the formation of new sanskaras and also results in the undoing of old sanskaras by giving to life an entirely new direction. Nowhere does self forgetfulness come so naturally and completely as in the intensity of love. Hence, it has been given the foremost place among the methods that secure release of consciousness from the bondage of sanskaras. Not just that, there is a purifying efficacy of love. Love comprehends in itself the different advantages belonging to other paths leading to emancipation and is in itself the most distinguished and effective path. It is at once characterized by self sacrifice and happiness. Its uniqueness lies in the fact that it is accompanied by an exclusive and wholehearted offering to the beloved without admitting the claims of any other object. Thus, there is no room for the diversion of mental energy and concentration is complete. In love, the physical, vital, and mental energies of man are all gathered up and made available for the cause of the beloved, with the result that this love becomes a dynamic power. The tension of true love is so great that any foreign feeling that might intervene is at once thrown out. The expulsive and purifying efficacy of love is unparalleled. Beautiful.
Do you want me to
Love.
read Karthik further? It's
Yeah, we can
you know,
rotate. We can rotate. Yeah, Ashok, you want to read? You can also read. No problem.
Karthik, I wanted to say that this word, a very significant word in the earlier paragraph, emancipation. So, I mean, on the path towards emancipation, this is really this whole chapter is very, uh, you know, uh, significant and interesting.
True. Absolutely. Beautiful. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah.
okay.
Um, yeah, we can rotate the reading. Love
Okay.
is present throughout creation. Let me just read this. Love is present throughout creation. There is nothing unnatural or artificial about love. It exists from the very beginning of evolution. At the inorganic stage, it is crudely expressed in the form of cohesion or attraction. It is the natural affinity that keeps things together and draws them to each other. The gravitational pull exercised by the heavenly bodies upon each other is an expression of this type of love. At the organic stage, love becomes self illumined and self appreciative and plays an important part from the lowest forms like the amoeba to the most evolved form of human beings. When love is self illumined, its value is intensified by its conscious sacrifice. Love expressed through conscious sacrifice. The sacrifice of love is so complete and ungrudging that it has all to give and nothing to expect. The more it gives, the more it wants to give, and the less it is aware of having given. The stream of true love is ever increasing and never failing. Its simple expression is its simple giving over. The complexities of the beloved are a concern of its best attention and care. Endlessly and remorselessly, it seeks to please the beloved in a thousand ways. It does not hesitate to welcome suffering in order to satisfy but one wish of the beloved or to relieve the beloved of the slightest pain or neglect or indifference. The lover would gladly pine and perish for the sake of the beloved. Careworn and tormented, love waits not to attend to the very body that houses and nourishes it. It brooks no compromise, and the beloved is the concern of the lover's lifetime. The tabernacle of love bursts under unmanageable restlessness and gives birth to streams of love and supreme sweetness, until the lover breaks through his limitations and loses himself in the being of the beloved. So he starts with the concept of love and then goes to devotion, different stages of devotion. When love is deep and intense, it is called bhakti or devotion. In its initial stages, devotion is expressed through symbol worship, supplication before the deities, reverence and allegiance to the revealed scriptures, or the pursuit of the highest through abstract thinking. In its more advanced stages, devotion expresses itself as interest in human welfare and the service of humanity, love and reverence for saints, and allegiance and obedience to a spiritual master. These stages have their relative values and relative results. Love for a living perfect master is a unique stage of devotion, for it eventually gets transformed into parabhakti or divine love. So then it defines what is parabhakti. Parabhakti is not merely intensified bhakti, it begins where bhakti ends. At the stage of parabhakti, devotion is not only single minded, but it is accompanied by extreme restlessness of the heart and a ceaseless longing to unite with the beloved. This is followed by lack of interest in one's own body and its care, isolation from one's own surroundings, and utter disregard for appearances or criticism, while the divine impulses of attraction of the beloved become more frequent than ever. This highest phase of love is most fruitful because it has the object, the one it has as its object. Sorry, I'll read this line again. This highest phase of love is most fruitful because it has as its object the one who is love incarnate and who can, as the supreme beloved, respond to the lover most completely. The purity, sweetness, and efficacy of the love that the lover receives from the master contributes to the insuperable spiritual value of this highest phase of love. Right? So, okay. So I think with that, we end the removal of sanskaras part 2. So what are the three ways of sublimation? Anybody? Meditation, selfless service, and devotion. So these are the three techniques that are offered under sublimation, and that's the last of the removal of techniques of removal of sanskaras. So I'll pause here. Any thoughts, any questions, any inputs? Kama, you want to summarize?
Hey, Baba. I think it's about head, heads,
Hey, we
head is
can't hear you.
knowledge.
Your audio is bad.
No, net is pretty old. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
No, not well.
You guys are very, very clear to me. I don't know why it's like this. Is there a
Yeah, that
background noise?
happens.
Maybe the fan?
Yeah, now it's a little better. The reason is download speeds are always higher than upload speeds. So when you're talking, you're uploading. When you're talking or sharing a screen. So generally, what all the mobile operators do is give very good download speeds, but uh, throttle the upload, and that's what's happening. Anyway, try again now.
Let me
Sounded
let me remove the speaker. How is it now?
Now it's a little better. Speaker doesn't make a difference. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So, like I said, every individual in the waking state is dealing with three things: the head, heart, and hands. Equate with the head and hands. So, as a, we can look at it. Bhakti yoga is form of devotion to and yoga. Like, example from Maharaj.
Hey, come. The audio is really bad.
Knowledge.
Yeah, Karthik, can I request if the last 30 seconds can be repeated?
Yeah, but then I don't think the internet quality may improve. But let's start. Let's try one last time. Try again, Kama. If it doesn't work, it's okay.
Okay, let me try. How is it now?
It's
Now it's
fine.
better. So long better. Yeah.
Okay. So again, to summarize, what I'm saying is, to simply put, I think this particular chapter deals with three things. Jnana Yoga, head, self-knowledge; Bhakti Yoga, heart, devotion, love, pure love; and then Karma Yoga, hands, selfless service. Most of us use a permutation combination of all three to focus on Baba. Very few people, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, you can call it a pure bhakti yogi, and Ramana Maharishi can be called as a pure jnana yogi. But one thing we have to understand, that just like breathing oxygen is the medium body,
You're gone now.
animal body, what I call as the oops. You guys are very clear. Shall I? What do I say? Shall I? No, I-
Okay, let's forget it.
uh,
Uh, I think
let's
it's
forget it. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's
yeah. I think it's good for certain parts, and then it just floats out, and then it's
you
frustrating
guys are
because we're not
very, very
able to
clear.
get the
Yeah.
yeah. It's frustrating because we're not
Mm.
able to get the whole thing continuously. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So Ashok, anything from your side?
No, fine.
Okay. So with that, we finished removal of sanskaras part 2, and we shall go to removal of sanskaras part 3, and let's just see what are the sections in that. So impressions from Sadguru transform life, wiping out all sanskaras through the intervention of a Sadguru. That's one stroke and it's all gone. Need for complete self surrender, and that's to the Sadguru. Intellectual obedience, literal obedience, and the role of a Sadguru. So this chapter is the removal of sanskaras with the active participation of a Sadguru. So let's dive in. Oh yeah. Anybody want? Yeah. Ashok or Ashish,
Yeah,
either of
I'll
you
read.
start. Okay, please.
The removal of sanskaras. Part 3, the wiping out of sanskaras. Love for the Sadguru or perfect master is particularly important because it invites contact with the Sadguru. Through such contact, the aspirant receives from the master impressions that have the special potency of undoing other past impressions, thus completely transforming the tenor of his life. The, the subtopic is impressions from Sadguru transforms life. The recipient of the impressions may entirely give up old habits of life and ways of thought. Such contact changes and elevates the tone of the most depraved life. A person might have been caught up in the thirst of possession and power with no ideal other than that of acquiring and hoarding money
Hey,
and
hold
making
on. You
money.
missed the line.
Oh,
A
sorry.
person. You have to read this.
Yeah, sorry. A person might have been leading a life of reckless dissipation without ever thinking of anything other than the fulfillment of mundane desires. He might have been caught up in the thirst of possession and power with no ideal other than that of acquiring and hoarding money and making merry. So, if I can just add, basically, caught up in Maya,
Yeah.
or yeah. However, even such a person who cannot, by any stretch of imagination, think of freedom from earthly fetters may find that the sanskaras he receives from his contact with the Sadguru are potent enough to drop forever a curtain on his old manner of thought and existence and to open for him entirely new vistas of a higher and freer life. The impressions received from the master might be equally beneficial to an intellectual and cultured person whose vision is never the less prescribed, whose imagination can at best appreciate the beauty of art and literature, and whose altruism cannot go beyond the limits of his neighborhood or the boundaries of his country. Such a person would, on receiving impressions from master, be lifted to still higher modes of life. Wiping out all sanskaras through intervention of Sadguru. The Sadguru can raise the aspirant from the ordinary intellectual level of consciousness to the level of consciousness where there is inspiration and intuition, and then onward to the level of insight and illumination that culminates in his merging into the infinite. Infinite with a capital I. This rising of the aspirant corresponds to his progress from the mundane sphere to the subtle sphere, and from the subtle sphere to the mental sphere, and finally from the mental sphere to the state of freedom. The last step implies complete wiping out of all sanskaras, natural or non natural, positive or negative. To take the analogy of the string around a stick, this process of wiping out of sanskaras consists in cutting the string with a pair of scissors. The erasing of all sanskaras, which is implied in the final release of consciousness from all illusion and bondage, can never be achieved except through the grace of Sadguru. The subtopic need for complete self surrender. But such active intervention by the Sadguru presupposes an unrestrained relationship between the aspirant and the master, which can be established only when the aspirant succeeds in complete self surrender to him. Self surrender implies obedience to all the orders of the master. When all your desires and actions are guided by him and are the result of your obeying his orders, he becomes directly responsible for them. Thus, when self surrender is thorough, the responsibility of your release from sanskaras is devolved upon the master. And under this new condition, the master annihilates all your sanskaras in no time. Obedience to the master, as implied in full self surrender, is of two kinds, intellectual and literal. Of these two types of obedience, intellectual obedience comes first and is a preliminary to literal obedience, which is more fruitful. Which is more fruitful, sorry. When you are intellectually convinced about the greatness and perfection of the master, you have love and respect for him, but are unable to follow his orders literally. Reason being the basis of your conviction, you find it difficult to divorce it from your understanding of the master and his orders. As the two are inextricably intertwined with each other, your reasoned faith holds you within the limits of intellectual obedience. This phase of the people is left undisturbed by the master, and all the pills of obedience offered by him are intellectualized in order to suit the pupil's taste and caliber. Literal obedience subheading: through intellectual obedience to the master, you can annihilate all your sanskaras, provided you are sincere in your logical interpretation of his orders and in their execution. But the result comes much quicker if your obedience is literal. Literal obedience is the effect of the rock like faith and deep love that the master inspires in the people through his human appeal. The overflowing radiance of the master's halo and the effulgence of his purity and compassion are mainly responsible for creating in the people an unswerving faith which prepares him to follow the master's orders implicitly, irrespective of their satisfying his critical spirit. Such literal obedience is not even bound by the requirement that the real significance of the orders should be within the intellectual comprehension of the people, and it is the best type of obedience to which you can inspire. Through such implicit and unquestioning obedience, all the crooked knots of your desires and sanskaras are set straight. It is through such obedience that a deep link is created between the master and the pupil, with the result that there is an unhindered and perennial flow of spiritual wisdom and power into the people. At this stage, the pupil becomes the spiritual son or daughter of the master, and in due time, he or she is freed from all individualistic and sanskaric ties. Then such a rare one becomes a master. Subtopic: Role of Sadguru. The Sadguru or perfect master has a position and power that is unique. There are many souls in the world who are more or less advanced on the spiritual path, but there are few who have crossed all the six stages of internal spheres of consciousness and become one with the infinite source of existence, knowledge, and bliss. The Sadguru has only experienced the different planes of consciousness. I'm sorry, the Sadguru has not only experienced the different planes of consciousness, but he actually permeates the very being of all souls because of his being, because of his having become one with infinite. He is the pivot of universal activity. In a sense, to him are due all your thoughts and actions, your joys and sorrows, your frets and fumes, your strengths and weaknesses, your possessions and surrenders, and your love and longing. He not only pervades all existence, but is consciously conversant with the cosmic law of cause and effect and the complex working of sanskaras as of individual souls. The causes of individual happiness or misery, vices or virtues, are as much known to him as the causes of cosmic changes and upheavals. Every being is an open book for the infinite searchlight of his omnipotent consciousness. Because of his union with the infinite, the master is endowed with unlimited power, and in a twinkling of an eye, he can annihilate all the sanskaras of the soul and liberate it from all entanglements and bondage.
So why does the perfect master have this gift? Any thoughts? I mean, we are happy that he does, but why? Why is the divine law being suspended for him? Anyone?
Well, he is the creator, the uncaused cause, or you can say the highest of the high in simple terms.
Yeah, yeah.
Uncaused cause is a very philosophical uh, concept, and that is what comes to my mind.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with that point. It is but why should, what is the exact logic for suspension of the law of cause and effect? And, in one stroke, he's able to give relief from bondage, which takes lifetimes otherwise. So, what is the bigger design in that? Why is that allowed? I would say, I mean, I don't have answers. I'm just asking this question and giving you what I think about it. So I think it's just the divine hierarchy of laws that are designed in a way where the perfect master and avatar have this gift where they are able to override, and it's also linked to the point you made, which is the biggest self has no limitations in power, knowledge, and bliss, and hence can put it with compassion, with its love for the rest of the individualized souls, uh, based on their progress, and more importantly, surrenderance, can actually help fast track some of them. So that's the explanation I can think of, but I just thought I'll ask the question. Okay, so any thoughts, any other questions? So we have covered the entire set of sanskaras. So we can now go to God and the individual, right? So it's basically the section on God, and God and there are multiple chapters here. God and the individual, perfection, search for God, stages of the path, arriving at self knowledge, and finally, the chapter on God realization. This will be followed by Maya, and then avatars and perfect masters, love, ego, reincarnation and karma, yoga, and like I was discussing earlier, there's the 6 chapters on meditation. Oh, sorry, 7 chapters, 8 chapters on meditation. Sorry. Okay, now let's start with God and the individual. Okay, there's a reference link. Okay, so what are the subtitles here? God is the only reality, apparent existence of the finite, which is what we are seeing and experiencing and living in every day. It is apparent, but then there is an existence. Cause of false thinking, scope of full consciousness, individualization of full consciousness, separateness exists only in imagination, objective universe, triple entanglement and duality, chasm between consciousness and unconsciousness, spiritual advancement, deep sleep, conscious union with infinite reality, and the state of perfection. The chapter is God and the individual. Let's get to the page.
You want to flip the reading or
Yeah,
ask me
yeah,
to
we
go?
can do. Ashish, you're good to read?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Jai
Yeah.
Baba.
So God and the individual. Topic is God is the only reality. God is infinite. He is beyond the opposites of God, opposites of
Hey,
good and bad.
your mic just, we are not able to hear you.
Oh, you're not able to hear me? Hello?
Now we can.
Okay. God is infinite. He is beyond the opposites of good and bad, right and wrong, virtue and vice, birth and death, pleasure and suffering. Such dual aspects do not belong to God. If you take God as one separate entity, he becomes one term in relational existence. Just as good in the counterpart of bad, God becomes the counterpart of not God. And infinite comes to be looked upon as the opposite of the finite. When you talk of the infinite and the finite, you are referring to them as two. And the infinite has already become the second part of the duality. But the infinite belongs to the non dual order of beings. If the infinite is looked upon as the counterpart of the finite, it is strictly speaking no longer infinite, but a species of the finite, for it stands outside the finite as its opposite and thus and is thus limited. Since the infinite cannot be the second part of the finite, the apparent existence of the finite is false. The infinite alone exists. God cannot be brought down to the domain of duality. There is only one being in reality, and it is the universal soul. The existence of finite or the limited is only apparent or imaginary. Apparent existence of the finite is the subtopic. You are infinite.
1 second. Yeah.
You are infinite. You are really everywhere. But you think that you are the body and therefore consider yourself limited. If you think you are the body which is sitting, you do not know your true nature. If you were to look within the experience your own soul in its true nature, you would realize that you are infinite and beyond all creation. However, you identify yourself.
Yeah.
Karthik, you scroll
Yeah,
down
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with the body. This false identification is due to ignorance, which makes itself effective through the medium of the mind. An ordinary person thinks that he is the physical body. A spiritually advanced individual thinks that he is the subtle body. The son thinks that he is the mind, but in none of them is the soul having direct self knowledge. It is not a case of pure thinking unmixed with illusion. The soul as soul is infinite, aloof from mind or body, yet owing to ignorance. The soul comes under the sway of the mind and becomes a thinker, sometimes identifying itself with the body and sometimes with the mind. From the limited point of view of a person who has not gone beyond the domain of Maya, there are numberless individuals. It seems that there are many individuals as there are minds and bodies. In fact, There is only one universal soul, but the individual thinks that he is different from other individuals. The one and the same soul is ultimately behind the minds of seemingly different individuals, and through them, it has the multifarious experience of duality. The one in the many comes to experience itself as one of the many. This is due to imagination or false thinking. Thinking. The subtopic is cause of false thinking. Thinking becomes false because of the interference of sanskaras accumulated during the process of the evolution of consciousness. The function of consciousness is perverted by the operation of sanskaras, which manifest themselves as desires. Through many lives, consciousness is continually being burdened by the after effects of experience. The perception of the soul is limited by these after effects. The thinking of the soul cannot break through the hedge created by sanskaras, and consciousness become a helpless captive of illusion projected by its own false thinking. This falsification of thought is present not only in case where consciousness is partly developed, but also in man where it is fully developed.
Can you please read a little bit up there before the blue mark, please?
Sure, sure.
You mean from here?
Yeah, the soul as soul.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
Please,
The
thank
soul,
you.
yeah, yeah, Deva. The soul as soul is infinite aloof from mind or body, yet owing to ignorance. The soul comes under the sway of the mind and becomes a thinker, sometimes identifying itself with the body and sometimes with the mind. From the limited point of view of a person who has not gone beyond the domain of Maya, there are numberless individuals. It seems that there are many individuals as there are minds and bodies. In fact, there is only one universal soul, but the individual thinks that he is different from other individuals. The one and the same soul is ultimately behind the minds of seemingly different individuals, and through the item, and through them, it has the multifarious experience of duality. The one in the many comes to experience itself as one of the many. This is due to imagination or false thinking.
I just want to add this is really a significant paragraph, and it brings to my mind the analogy of that we all are one, and that we are all one means that we are small droplets from the same ocean, and we merge back in the ocean. So the ocean is one. It's just because of our the illusion of Maya that we think that we are different, but we all are one and part of the big S soul.
Yeah, the key word
Yeah,
is
so what is very important here, I think, I'm sorry, somebody wanted to say
no, no.
something.
Go ahead, Mahu. After you.
No, sure. No, I was going to say it's interesting. I haven't read that this before, that it's written here that Baba says, or editor Don Steven, who knows who wrote this, but says the soul comes under the sway of the mind and becomes a thinker. I don't know about this. I think the consciousness of the soul comes under the sway of the mind and becomes a thinker. Not the soul, because there is only one soul. Let's see if it says it further down. That is over soul. That's why we say one. Here is called universal soul, one universal soul, right? So it can't be the soul coming, or maybe this is a typo. There are typos here too. That it can't be that the soul play a dual role. Means that when it's interfering or coming under the sway of the mind, it becomes a thinker, whereas his main role is to be one, the oversoul, the infinite consciousness, the infinite intelligence. So I think here I'm having a little bit of hiccup that it says soul becomes under the sway of the mind and not consciousness of it. Is consciousness. It's the consciousness that goes through the whole evolutionary process and gets under the sway of the, I would say, samskaras, and get diluted by the samskaras, and then we have to come and go just to clean it, and then the avatar or Sadguru comes to help us. So anyway, I thought I share this.
So, in fact, all through discourses, Mahu, this is, I think, again, Kama told us very early on, and I think that applies strongly. Right through discourses, you have to read wherever you see the word smallest soul. Most places you have to replace it with the phrase consciousness of the soul. That's spot on. So you're right. But the
Yeah.
broader picture is the biggest soul, and I mean the smallest soul, by itself doesn't have any meaning. It's just the consciousness that creates this apparent differentiation and goes through this journey. So good
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
pointing.
the reason is, Kartik, is I used to make this mistake for a long time, by what people say we repeated it like a bird. Even when I wanted to introduce someone who met Baba and stuff in Baba Center, I would say, well, he's really an advanced soul. He's an advanced soul. He met the avatar. And later on, they told me, and I realized that there isn't any advanced soul or non-advanced soul. The soul is only one. Soul is only, so the term that many common people are using, advanced soul, is not correct. Now we know by Meher Baba's teaching that it is not correct. Yeah, that's a J Baba.
So, having said that, I will add only one more phraseology. I think it will end up confusing, but then it's important because that also has a pride of place in Baba's darshana. Baba is the first to use the phraseology individualization of the soul,
Yes,
right? Now,
right.
what that means is this apparent distinction between the ocean and the drop is absolutely definitively confirmed by Baba, right? So he
Yes,
says that there is this distinction that is recognized with the play of sanskaras. I mean, with and because and through the play of sanskaras, you get into this apparent distinction and it goes through the journey. But again, rightfully, it's the consciousness of the soul that creates this apparent distinction, right? Or
yes.
this individualization.
Yeah, but you're very right, Kartik, because I remember at one point, Don Stevens, of course, that is a editor of all this. He was, we were with him, in a meeting, and he did say himself, it took him a while through money and some correspondence that he had. Finally, he began to come to term with this term of individualized soul that Bobo has mentioned. Individualized soul. So you're right. If we see that term is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, my attention was drawn to this phraseology through Don Stevens only,
Yeah.
who brings it out saying this is unique. And yes, Yeah, thank you.
Oh, so you did do say it through them because yeah, so that's exactly that. That was actually the opening for him. So he shared it with all of us.
Yes, yes. Okay, let's continue. Uh,
Cause of false thinking. Thinking becomes false because of the
Hey,
interference of,
yeah.
yeah.
So briefly, your voice faintly, I mean, goes off and becomes faint. I don't know what's happening. Maybe it's just the position of the mic.
Okay, so now it's okay. Now it's
Much better.
much
Go
better.
ahead.
Yeah. Cause of false thinking. It's a subtopic. Thinking becomes false because of the interference of sanskaras accumulated during the process of the evolution of consciousness. The function of consciousness is perverted by the operation of sanskaras, which manifest themselves as desires. Through many lives, consciousness is continually being burdened by the after effects of experience. The perception of the soul is limited by these after effects. The thinking of the soul cannot break through the hedge created by sanskaras, and consciousness becomes a helpless captive
Okay, I
of
think you're
illusion.
having audio issues for sure. I think it's something to do with your hardware today. Not, I don't think it's internet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it everyone facing a problem or okay?
Can somebody else confirm?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the voice is getting yeah, that is true. I confirm the
Yes.
voice is a little garbled and we're losing your
So
the
that's
I
fine. That's
can read
fine.
if you want, Karti. You want me to read?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Start from cause of false thinking.
Yeah, so the topic is called cause of false thinking. Thinking becomes false because of the interference of samskaras accumulated during the process of the evolution of consciousness. The function of consciousness is perverted by the operation of consciousness, which manifest themselves as desires. Can you hear me right?
Yes, yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. Through many lives, consciousness is continually being burdened by the after effects of experience. The perception of the soul is limited by these after effects. This interesting perception of the soul. The thinking of the soul cannot break through the hedge created by samskaras, and consciousness becomes a helpless captive of illusions projected by its own false thinking. This falsification of thought is present not only in cases where consciousness is partly developed, but also in man when there is fully developed. In man where it is fully developed. The progressive evolution of consciousness from the Stone Age culminates in man. The history of evolution is the history of a gradual development of consciousness. The fruit of evolution is full consciousness, which is characteristic of man. So the next topic is a scope of full consciousness. But even this full consciousness is like a mirror covered by dust. Owing to the operation of sanskaras, it does not yield clear and true knowledge of the nature of the soul. Though fully developed, it yields not truth but imaginative construction, since its free functioning is hindered by the weight of the samskaras. Moreover, It cannot extend beyond the cage created by its desires and therefore is limited in its scope. So next one is individualization of consciousness. The boundary in which consciousness can move is prescribed by the samskaras, and the functioning of consciousness is also determined by the desires. As desires aim at self-satisfaction, the whole consciousness becomes self-centered and individualized. The individualization of consciousness may, in a sense, be said to be the effect of the vortex of desires. The soul gets enmeshed in the desires and cannot step out of this circumscribed individuality constitute by these desires. So I like to share something before I go further, because this one is going to go further into how the barriers come and what is the role of desires and whatnot. But uh, this particular here sentence says is very important, and I say why. Here, the boundary in which consciousness can move is prescribed by the sanskaras, and in a functioning of consciousness is also determined by the desires. So, for years, especially this goes among intellectuals, people, particularly in the West. And this is they always talk about the concept of free will, right? A concept, it's all the philosophers, not all of them, some philosophers and some intellectuals, and they seem to think free will, there is a free will, man has a free will, or individual people have free will, and therefore they can make their decision and they have their own freedom and like that. Whereas, in fact, there is a short video on YouTube that Don Stevens talked about it, and I think it's really very eye-opening. And now I can see that he got it from here. He explains, or Baba here explains, that the boundary in that consciousness can move is only prescribed, dictated by the samskaras, and the functioning of sanskaras is determined by desires. I don't go further, but what I'm trying to say is that Don Stevens also explains that you can call it free will or you can call it anything, but people can make a decision of their own only within the boundary of their sanskaras, right? So whatever that your sanskaras is, your sanskara says you're the king, you're this, you're that, and this is how it defines your free will. Your free will for making any decision and whatnot is within what you know, what the level of your consciousness, which the level of your consciousness is directly controlled or shadowed
Sanskar.
by your sanskars. Yeah. So there isn't any actually such thing as free will, I don't think. Anyway.
Perfect. Lovely, lovely, lovely tangential exploration. In fact, as you rightly said, the world of philosophy has given a lot of importance to free will. But Baba, in fact, rarely uses that phraseology. And I'm not sure if I've heard the video that you're specifically referring to, that where Don Stevens takes it up. But I think I heard Don Stevens only that. Where he says there is nothing like a free will, because free will is only circumscribed and defined or scoped based on the sanskaras. So it's not
Yeah.
really free. So there is a will, but that will is rather limited, and it operates within the scope of what is your what the sanskaric makeup of your consciousness of the soul is, right? So that's the
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah.
So,
So there's
so
one will only now
okay,
that we're with Baba, but that is a Baba's will or divine will. That's
that's
the
it.
only will. That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
somebody will.
You were saying
yeah,
something.
I was saying that it relates to the sanskaric ties.
Correct, correct. But then, if you go to Vedanta, if you go to many of the philosophers, they give a lot of importance to, oh, you have free will, and then you can do this and you can do that. But if you look at it logically, and if you understand sanskaras correctly and the individualization of the soul correctly, there is no free will, because
Absolutely.
uh, yeah. So it's another apparent creation of the mind, that because we are in the human form, we can do anything. We cannot do anything. We can only do something surely more than an ant, surely much more than a tree, much more than many animal forms. But it's not free reign. It's not unlimited. It is not the capacity of thinking is unlimited, but not the capacity of doing, because will translates to being able to do anything, right? So yeah, it's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why this, some of these quote unquote intellectuals and whatnot, they have a hard time accepting the role of the master, what the masters say to you and you
Exactly.
obey,
Yes.
because they think that, wow, I'm the one, I can make the will happen. Like that. Anyway, I
Good
think we
point.
should
Good point.
finish this point. We should
Yeah,
finish
please.
this part before time ends. Okay.
Please.
So I said the individualization of consciousness may, in a sense, be said to be the effect of the vortex of desires. The soul gets enmeshed in the desires and cannot step out of the circumscribed individuality constituted by these desires. It imagines these barriers and becomes self hypnotized. It looks upon itself as being limited and separate from other individuals. It gets entangled in individualistic existence and imagines a world of manifold separateness composed of many individuals with their respective minds and bodies. You want to
Mm.
go up?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, I will.
did you want to say something?
No, no,
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
So the next topic is separateness. Separateness exists only in imagination. When the rays of the sun are made to pass through a prism, they get dispersed and become separate because of the refraction. If each of these rays had consciousness, it would consider itself as being separate from the other rays, forgetting entirely that at the source and on the other side of the prism, it had no separate existence. In the same way, the one being descends into the domain of Maya and assumes a multiplicity that does not in fact exist. Oh, assumes a multiplicity that does not in fact exist. The separateness of individuals does not exist in reality, but only in imagination. The one universal soul imagines separateness in itself, and out of this division, there arises the thought of I and mine, and opposed to you and yours. Although the soul is in reality an undivided and absolute unity, it appears as being manifold and divided owing to the working of its own imagination. Imagination is not a reality. Even in its highest flight, It is a departure from truth. It is anything but the truth. The experience the soul gathers in terms of the individualized ego is all imagination. It is a misapprehension. It is a misapprehension of the soul. Out of the imagination of the universal soul are born many individuals. Yeah, that's actually Ishwar, but that's another subject. This is Maya or ignorance.
Yeah, that's a good brief thing that you introduced there. Yeah, the role of Ishwar, which is
Yeah,
the role of creation.
yeah.
But yeah,
Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. He works around the clock. He works around the clock. We didn't say Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Brahma. So it's just happening with us or within us. It's
all the
just
time.
that's all the
All
time.
the time. Yes, 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 yes. Great. So I think we'll pause here, but it was an interesting discussion, and we brought in so many different things that were useful. Any thoughts before we wrap up?
I like to share. We're reading the Infinite Intelligence with Christina. I'm reading. I'm only participating in reading part. There is a meeting before that they discuss. But Baba goes in very detail about this thinking imagination and why is it happening and so forth. It's a very vast subject. But I think here that what we read, it really summarized it quite well. Yeah,
Correct.
how the imagination works and how does the soul gets affected by that. And how does, I'm sorry, the individualized soul is affected by that. Yeah,
True. It's beautiful.
yeah, I think so. But it's
It's
just,
it's a beautiful expansion, but of course, thinking and imagination is rather confusing till you get it in
yeah,
infinite intelligence.
that's very true. I just say this and I finish. This thinking imagination that Bobo oftentimes, even there's a story is taught to this as you don't exist, your wife doesn't exist, your that like that. He talks to different people at different level. Anyway, he knows what to do. But sometimes I'm thinking of it with thing outside and look at all these buildings, big buildings, all this stuff happening, all this technology. So, is this really imagination? Like means it really this building doesn't exist. It's hard to really grasp it, but one day maybe we all get it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I keep getting that doubt, but then now I'm convinced. I mean, it's just a projection. It's at a level, it is as real as we feel things around us are real when we are in a dream, right? So when you're in a dream, you're convinced that that snake that's coming to bite you is real, or the pain that you're experiencing is real.
yeah,
Only when you're shaken out of the dream state do you recognize that, oh, so that was just in my mind. In the same way, we will get shaken out of this dream as well, this waking dream. But till such time, there is a apparent reality that our mind gives to everything we see around us.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, pseudo reality, yes, it's not really a reality, but yeah, our mind thinks it is the reality, and we're always being fooled by it.
Correct.
I literally catch myself how foolish I am sometimes that, I get sensitive about this, I get sensitive about that, all that stuff, which is totally non existent. Yeah, anyway, we can sit down here and talk and talk and talk, but
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
but just to add, Karthik, you said projection. So the projection reminds me that again, this whole thing is like a movie, and our lives are, and soul is like a blank screen. We have discussed this earlier, but that's what comes to my mind.
Yes. the analogy of the white screen. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, on that note, let's wrap up and hope all of you enjoy the rest of Sunday for you, Saturday night, Mahu, and have a great week ahead. And hold your anticipation and excitement for the book that we're going to choose. I'm yet to decide, but I will send out a text message, and of course, you'll see the book next Saturday, the one we are reading on Saturday.
That's
Ashish,
great.
Avtar Meher Baba ki
Any
jai.
book is good. Any book is good. All good.
Exactly, exactly. But then the mind likes anticipation, the mind likes guessing. So enjoy and have fun. We
Ah.
will surprise you on Saturday.
and,
Okay, that's
and,
wonderful.
and it is also Saturday evening for Ashish, isn't it? He's in
Yes,
US.
sorry, yeah, Ashish and Mahu, correct, yeah. And
I'm
hope
sorry,
you're
what happened? What happened?
no. Ashok is
Ah,
pointing out that it's not just you, Mahu, that are still in Saturday. It's also Ashish. Ashish is in Texas.
oh yeah. I got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Yes. Ashish
yeah,
is in Texas. We
yeah.
are 2 hours difference.
Correct,
Ashish
Yeah.
is Texas
Yes.
Central
Yes.
Time and I'm
correct,
Yes.
Pacific Time. Yeah. So
correct,
must be late for him. 9:36 he is.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
fine. Not that bad. Yeah.
Hello,
Okay,
Jai
All
wonderful.
right.
Baba, everybody.
All right. Jai
Jai
Yeah,
Baba,
Baba.
Baba.
everybody. Have a
Thank
good
Yeah.
you.
week.
Jai Baba.